Blueberry galette, which just means free form pie, is what we're making today. And guess what? It's easy and it's delicious. Let's make it. So when you go to make a galette, we're really making a pie crust, but we're not gonna form it into a pie shell. We're just gonna make the crust, free form it, which is a lot easier and less time consuming. So to start, we're gonna make the crust, which I think is super simple. And honestly, it's so simple, I do it with my hands. You can do it with a food processor, but then I don't have to clean something else. And I think when you do it by hand, you get a better texture. So I'm gonna put my flour right into a bowl. It's just all-purpose flour. And then I'm gonna add to that a little bit of seasoning. So a little bit of salt, not too much, and then a little bit of sugar. Now, the sugar, you don't wanna make it so sweet. We're gonna have a filling that's sweet. This is just enough to season the dough. It helps it brown slightly, and it adds just a little bit of seasoning to it. So we're gonna mix that together, super simple. And now we're gonna add our cubed pieces of butter. Now this is cold butter, and if you wanna make sure it's cold, even pop it in the freezer for a little bit. Anytime you're making a pie crust, we've all heard this. You make it really cold when you're putting it together, and you keep it cold, but then you bake it really hot. That helps so it's flaky. So what I'm doing is just right now, as you can tell, I'm just coating all those pieces in the flour mixture. That helps so they don't stick together. And now what I'm gonna do is take one by one, a piece of that butter, and I'm gonna just push it between my thumb and forefingers. Then I'm gonna put it back in, I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna continue to do this till I get to a kind of rough cornmeal texture. A little bit bigger pieces of butter than what would be in cornmeal type sandy look. But as I'm doing it, you can see I'm just flattening the pieces into the flour, and this is slowly gonna mix that together. You don't wanna mix it till it's just completely the same, but you wanna mix it until it looks just like this rough mixture, which I'll show you. So you can see now that this is becoming, you still have big pieces of butter, which you want. That's gonna give flakiness to your crust. And I don't, kind of the size of a pea, maybe a large pea or smaller, but this is what I want. Another test I do is I pick some up, I make a fist, and you see how it holds together, but then it instantly just falls apart because our moisture isn't added. So this is perfect. Some big pieces, small pieces, but not all just one dough. Now we have ice water. So the reason we're using ice water, don't want cubes in it, but we want cold water, is because it keeps everything cold. If you feel like your butter's just getting really melty or the room is really hot, put it in the fridge for a while. Let it chill, that's fine. This is where a lot of people get scared because they think, oh, I don't want to add too much water. While that's true, you also don't want too dry a dough because water is actually what is going to keep everything together. So I first put a little bit in, about, half the amount maybe usually that I would, and I start mixing it. Now, each time of year, guess what? It changes the amount of water you might need. When it's more humid, when it's drier out, all those things make a difference. So at first you think, well, there's no difference to it, but as I'm moving it, that flour is absorbing that water. Now when I pick this up and I make a fist, look at that, and it doesn't just fall apart right away. Now I can see this needs about a little bit more water. So I'm putting just a little bit more, about like that, little teaspoons at a time, mix it up, and now this is like a shaggy dough. And how I know that is, I pull it up, I can make a nice cohesive dough. So before I form it together, we're just gonna keep mixing it and then push it into a ball here. So now that I know it's gonna hold together, and I still want those big pieces of butter in there, I have some plastic wrap. This is to me just the method that works best. Do what works best for you. But I put down my plastic, which I know, it's always hard to put down plastic wrap, but this is important. So now we're gonna put out all of our kind of shaggy dough onto there, even the dry bits there on top, put it all on there. And instead of just really pushing it together with our hands, which can make it hot, can melt the butter, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna just start pushing it. Seeing that? Look at that. You're getting right away a cohesive dough. And I'm just continuing to push it until, look, it's pretty much becoming a disc. Now I don't wanna do it so tight that I lose all those little pieces of butter. Like if you look, there's a nice piece of butter, little pockets of butter, let's call it. So once I have it pretty much cohesively together, we just take this tightly, form it kind of into a disc, and now on this side, I just flatten it out, kind of shape the sides slightly, and if you come in here and look, you can see little pockets of butter all over. That's what you want. Those are gonna be flaky. Those are gonna really, in the oven, they're gonna dissipate and create so much steam that it flakes up. Super easy. So now this, just to readjust it, let it fully hydrate, and just kind of set the butter again. We're gonna put it in the fridge for a few minutes. While it's in there, we're gonna make the filling. We're gonna have a galette. So while the crust is chilling, I have my blueberries here. I'm using fresh because it is in season. I just picked these at my local blueberry bottom farm. Love them. If you wanna use frozen, you can use frozen. Don't let them fully thaw if they're frozen because they get way too mushy. mix them in when they're just slightly still frozen. So I'm gonna take these, put them right into the same bowl I mixed the crust in. It's okay if there's some remnants in there. I don't wanna dirty a new bowl. So now we're gonna just mix together pretty much what would go into a pie. It's a slightly maybe different amount because we have a free form and don't have the big sides on it, but pretty much the same. Some sugar. It's not as much sugar as a pie really would have, but it doesn't need that much. These are fresh blueberries, they're in season, they have a lot of sweetness, that's the best part. We of course need some thickener, so we're gonna add some cornstarch. That's gonna help bind everything together, and that's what you need with a pie. You need the right amount of thickener that will create it cohesive, but not just like a gel. You don't want that either. A little bit of salt, you know, anything I bake needs to have a little bit of salt. It brings out more flavor. Now the odd ingredient I always put into my blueberry pies, galettes, a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Yeah, it's odd. Don't be scared of it. Even if you say, I don't like vinegar, don't be scared of it. The tanginess, but the sweetness too in balsamic vinegar brings out more flavor. Super important. Some lemon juice. Lemon juice, again, it is a brightness, and so many times when we make something with a fresh fruit, we want to use it because it brings out so much more flavor. So we're gonna put in that juice right in there. That already, I am smelling it. And you don't want so much that all you taste is lemon. You want enough that brings out the flavor, and that's what you want. So I'm gonna take here just a spatula, and we're gonna start by just stirring this up, which you can see, it looks pretty much like any pie filling would. Now the one thing with blueberries are, they have kind of, until they break, they don't break down with as much juices. So what I like to do, almost dropped one, I caught it, is to take a little masher, a potato masher, whatever, and just on a few of them here on the side, I'm just gonna do 1 or 2 mashes. You can see here what that's doing is just mashing them up. So we're gonna do that and just mix them together. So just a small amount over here, and you can see when I smash them, see how it brings out some of their juices? You just want that because that's what's gonna help actually get that cornstarch to be mixed in, because you always, when you use cornstarch, you wanna have it be mixed into something. So now I'm just gonna again give it a final toss. And this is the filling, that's all we have to do. So we just wanna wait for that dough to chill. A few more minutes, then I'm gonna roll that out, place these on it, we're gonna bake it, and we are gonna have some great dessert. I took the dough out of the fridge. It's been chilling, and it's just a more cohesive mass. It makes sure the butter is cold again, which is what we want. And when you take it out, I have a well-floured surface. You don't want sticking. And you can see, if you look at this, do you see those little pockets of butter? You see the color variations? That's what you want. So I do make sure also flour, the dough itself, even my rolling pin. And now what I do is I continually am moving my dough. So I'm gonna continually just move it about a quarter turn maybe, and that makes sure it's not sticking. I don't want it to stick. So as I'm turning it, I do about, a nice little push of the rolling pin, kind of from the center out. You have to find the technique that works for you. I'm not gonna sit here and say you have to do it exactly this way. If you do, crust, you'll know what works for you. And if you get a little bit of cracking around the edge, 1, you could just go in and slightly push it together. But 2, this is a galette. The cracks don't matter as much. Isn't that the best part? So it's freeform, it's low key, it's rustic, it's country casual. That's what this is. So I'm gonna just roll this out and then we'll put the filling in. So if you want to at the end, check it with a ruler if you wanna know it's about the right size. I mean, now you can tell it's rustic. I have edges that are rustic, that's fine. This isn't perfect, and if the shape doesn't come out perfect, don't feel bad, don't fret. So now what I wanna do is just transfer it to, a parchment lined baking sheet, because it could have juices that will spread in the oven. Don't feel bad if they do. That's part of the allure of it. So we're gonna open it back up. Look at that beauty. And see if you get little cracks, don't feel bad, just push them together. You'll see how it all comes together. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pile the blueberries in the middle. And at first you're gonna think, okay, that's way too many. It is a lot, but you pile them, and we're gonna put the edges up on them. So as you kind of go down, we wanna make sure we get all those juices in there too. The juices are what have the thickener now, that cornstarch, because it dissipates into the liquid. I'm gonna push these all on here, and then just kind of pile them up. So I'm getting it all out, all that juice, because that has the sweetener, has the thickener, has flavor now from those blueberries. So that's why we pushed and crushed some of those blueberries. It really helped bring out some of these juices. So you can see, look how piled up this is. That's what you want. To me, the point is, I want a good crust, but I want a lot of filling with that crust. So now what we're gonna do is just freeform it. So see what we're doing? We're just kind of roughly folding, increasing just slightly as we go. And guess what? Is it perfect? No, that is the point. So I'm kind of just, see what I'm doing? Just taking it, making a fold, and going up around the whole thing. And it's gonna look full, but remember, they cook down in the actual oven, so it does go down a little bit. So once I get it all done, I just start brushing some cream around the edges. Now, one, this can help give it a nice little golden hue, a little shine, but more so what we wanna do with this, as I'm doing it, is take some raw sugar, turbinado sugar it's also called, and sprinkle it on. And that gives it like this crackliness, which just kind of finishes it off better. It's nothing, there's nothing to do with the baking part of it. It just gives you a nice, shiny, crackly finish. And this also acts as a glue. So we're putting this on so we can add that sugar, make it all rustic, all beautiful. And we're gonna keep doing that all the way around the thing and put it in the oven. This is kind of my favorite part, when it kind of comes together in a rough way. It's beautiful. So now I'm gonna put this right into a hot oven. You wanna start it hot. I turn it down a little bit into it, but I wanna make sure the crust sets right away, and that's why you want a hot oven and to keep it cold. So I'm gonna put this in, and don't worry, juices may flow out. That's all part of the allure of it. Once this was done baking, I took it out of the oven. I let it cool completely. You can never cut a pie directly when it comes out of the oven. It's hot, and everything inside of it will still seem really liquidy, which you want it to be somewhat liquidy even when you cut it, but if it's just hot, it will just go everywhere. So this should now be cooled down and not go everywhere when I cut it. Now it will go, I mean, it should still be somewhat viscous, should we say, but it is just, you can tell it bled a little bit, but that's what you want because you need a pie to be bubbling throughout. I mean, that to me is like super important, and I don't think a lot of people realize how important that is. Oh, look at that. Does that look good? So we're gonna take a nice, we'll see here, cut a couple, like a nice piece, and I wanna make sure I got through the whole thing and go underneath it. Oh, look at, this is exactly what I want. See how it holds together, but you can tell even here on the pie piece, a couple pieces fell out. It's not like just gel or jello. It has like a nice texture to it, and it holds, just look how it just drips, like my mouth is watering, so you can see what I mean. And what I like is I actually had to cut through the crust. If you look underneath, it's browned, it's what you want. Oh, good. Okay, it's really good. What I like is it's not too sweet that you don't taste the blueberry. It's just sweet enough. You do not taste balsamic vinegar, but the lemon and balsamic work together to really bring out the blueberry flavor. So you eat this and you think, there's intense blueberry, and that's what you want. Make your mouth all purple. It needs a dollop of ice cream on it, but I didn't want to make you jump through the screen. I just wanted you to see this, and now you know you need to make it, and then you can have ice cream with it too. What do I hope you do with this? I hope you actually see that if a pie seems intimidating, a galette, less intimidating. It's super easy, and guess what? The point of a galette is to be rustic, is to be whatever it is. Let it form itself. Make this galette, enjoy it, but also share the video around, because yeah, that helps me. When you share these videos, it helps me, but it helps everyone else see, if this guy in Iowa can do this, anybody can do it. I believe in you, and I know you can do it. Spread the word, check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe, all my other recipes. Until next time, have some blueberries, whether you make the galette or not. Enjoy them when they're in season.